So in Egypt and in Africa in general, fish welfare was not even a concept when we first started. Actually, animal welfare was hardly a concept. The idea of caring about how animals were feeling or how animals were doing was unfamiliar, let's say. So you can imagine how extra-terrestrial it sounded to care about fish. But through collaboration with local partners, we've started introducing the importance of animal welfare within the circle of aquaculture in the biggest fish farming nation of Africa. So in 2023, we got funding to explore how to improve fish welfare in Egypt. And through stakeholder consultations, we found out some big challenges. Almost no one keeps records of how much they feed their fish or how many of their fish die. Hardly any fish farmers in Egypt monitor water quality, and fish are harvested in a very harsh way. So we needed to find ways to address these challenges. In response to the lack of record tracking, we teamed up with FAA, and at the start of 2024, we launched their Tilapia Welfare App in Egypt. FAA are a UK-based consulting company that works with partners in the food system to try to advance sustainability and animal welfare. In 2022, they developed a first-of-its-kind app that can be used by farmers to assess the welfare of their fish. They have apps for a lot of different species, but we were only focusing on Tilapia Welfare App for Egypt. The great thing about the app is that it's very easy to use and it doesn't require technical knowledge. And at this point, it's very important to take into account that not all farmers in Egypt can read or write. So with the app, farmers can introduce some basic parameters into the app and it would give them a score on how their fish are doing. And based on that score, the app will also give them recommendations on what they can do to improve the welfare of their fish. The hard part here was to get the people that work with the fish to really use the app on a regular basis. So we had to get creative. And what we did here was to identify the groups that worked along with the fish farmers and try to make them use the app. So we identified vets, sales representatives from feed producers, researchers, etc. And what we did was to put the app on their hands. So many of our training rounds were focusing in training these groups. In a case of Kenya, where we just launched the app a few months ago, what we did was to work with fisheries extension officers who are government mandated to visit the farms on a regular basis. What we are doing with them is we're getting them to carry out welfare assessments on a regular basis every time they visit a farm using the app. It means not extra work for them, and it's actually a good way for them to prove to their superiors that they are carrying out their job. In fact, one thing we're trying in Kenya is to create a mini tournament between the officers to see who carries out the most assessments, and the top 3 would get a water testing kit as a reward. So kind of gamification. So apart from technology and welfare assessments for existing aquaculture operations, we also try to look for solutions to prevent problems before they arise. So here I'm going to talk about 2 examples in Tanzania. First, Zanzibar. The government of Zanzibar, which is a semi-autonomous part of Tanzania, has been keen to exploit what the World Bank and some UN agencies call the blue economy. And as you know, aquaculture is one of the key pillars of blue economy. Zanzibar's geography makes it suitable for farming fish and other aquatic species in cages off the coast. So the government wants to take advantage of that as the archipelago tries to improve its economy. So the good thing here is that we have a good relationship with the Ministry of Blue Economy and Fisheries, and they asked us to help them come up with a strategy for their aquaculture sector, which is in an early stage. So through stakeholder workshop and situational analysis, we realized that actually Zanzibar had a really unique advantage when it comes to seaweed farming. Actually, most women in Zanzibar do seaweed farming as a living. So we made a case for why they should prioritize this instead of looking to farm fish. However, it is very likely that they end up trying to scale the fish farming. So we included some very ambitious language in the strategy that encourages the region to adopt high welfare approaches should they start farming fish in bigger numbers. So how we did this is we tied high welfare fish farming to what they call the Zanzibar brand, because Zanzibarians are very proud that their seaweed is associated with a high quality product. So we worked with it and we tried to weave that same concept into fish farming to generate a feeling of pride around the processes and products coming from Zanzibar. The second example is in Lake Tanganyika, which is in the western part of Tanzania, which is one of the poorest areas of Africa and probably the world. We partnered with Swiss and Australian innovators to create a model farm called Tanganyika Blue, which aims to farm native tilapia species in the most ethical and responsible way possible. Lake Tanganyika is a biodiversity hotspot and has some of the most unique aquatic species in the world. And what we are trying here is to prevent and discourage farmers from farming invasive species such as the Nile tilapia or catfish or so on, because that would harm, obviously, the native species. But our work is not just focused on farms and working with actors on the ground. We are always trying to think of ways to create systemic change, and for that, policy is key. So through our work in Kenya, we formed a strong partnership with the African Union body responsible for what they call animal resources, which is the Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources, which is in charge of promoting the responsible treatment of animals in Africa. We are partnering with them to develop continental fish welfare standards that individual countries can actually use to adopt within the regulations. Our idea here is to push for improved aquatic animal welfare at a continental level, making it a formal part of their aquaculture policy agenda. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And I would like to end with a personal comment. Working to improve fish welfare in Africa is very challenging. And the context is very different from the US or from Europe. And it is so in terms of infrastructure, legal frameworks, or social priorities. But that does not mean that we should do nothing. So we at ESR, we try to push the system from within, aiming for real, sometimes small, but meaningful and lasting improvements. And that is so for the life of millions of animals. And we know that for many of us, abolition is the ultimate goal. But we also believe that in certain contexts, moving forward with a strategy, it is not giving in, it's planting seeds. And we do this work always with that in mind. Well, thank you very much.